Welcome to the next installment of the NC Cardinal Reports 101 webinar series. Today we're going to be looking specifically at circulation reports. And really what I was planning to do today was walk through sort of the process of thinking about um, how to create a fairly basic report. We're not going to go into a lot of detail on how things fit together and all that. Instead, we're just going to walk through the process, and the end result will be a pretty straightforward report. If you're able to follow along, please do so. If not, I do recommend coming back to the recording and sort of attempting to recreate the report that we'll make together, pausing the recording kind of as you need to. And the template that I do create today, I will put in a shared folder so you can kind of make your own, and then you can take a look at the communal one and sort of see how they compare. So that is my hope for today, is to kind of uh, get people's feet under them with the creation of a report. Up to this point, we have talked a lot about cloning. We've talked about editing those cloned reports. So this is really the first time we'll be diving into the concept of creating an actual template. But I'm going to keep it very straightforward. So nothing to be scared of. We're going to start by talking about the different types of circulation reports that are currently available. And we will look at some of those so that you can kind of get an idea of what's out there. Just like most of the reports that we do recommend for you, they are going to be in our shared folder. So if you go into the reports interface and you come down here to shared folders and open up templates, you'll find the admin folder. And if you open that up, you'll find our centralized reports templates folder. So this is where those shared reports typically are. The one that we create today will be in a different location, and I'll show you that as well. For today, since we are focusing on circulation reports, I will tell you where you can find those, and they're primarily in this circulation templates folder. If you open that up, you'll see that there are two subfolders, just like with most of our centralized reports templates, one for count and one for lists. So what's the difference between a count report and a list report? Why would you want to go into one of these folders versus the other? In general, and there's always a couple of exceptions, but in general, a list is going to be an itemized look at something. So with circulation reports, that usually means a list of titles. There may be a count element within that, meaning that maybe you'll have the number of times a specific title has circulated, but at its core, it's one row for each item. You find similar things with patron reports, where you may have counts and lists, and the list will be a list of individual patrons, one row per person. Counts, on the other hand, are going to be less specific. So you may have a sum of circulations by call number, range, or workstation, or as broad as a sum of circulations by circulating library. Um, so if you really want those kind of larger circ counts, just sort of your reporting, if you wanted to report your circulation numbers for your library or circulation numbers for certain um, sort of sub collections within your library, this is where you would go. If you want to do the type of report that you may be able to use for weeding or collection development, or something like that, and you really want to see the circulation numbers by title, then you're going to want to go into lists. And like I said, there's always a little bit of gray area. There are those sort of fuzzy things that maybe it's a count, maybe it's a list. And so for things like that, you may want to look in both places. But in general, if you're looking for those sort of really big summary numbers, you're going to look in counts. And if you're looking for more of an itemized list that may or may not have a count element to it, you'll look in lists. Any questions about that sort of general breakdown within the centralized reports templates? All right, so while we're in here, let's go ahead and clone an existing circulation report. So we're just going to clone a fairly common one. We're going to look in the lists folder. That's where we are right now. So we're under, in the shared folders, we're under our centralized reports templates. And then within that, we're in circulation. And then within that, we're going to be in lists. And for this one, we're going to look for circulation by item and date range. So a very very common, very straightforward report. So a couple of different ways that you can kind of find that one. Obviously, you could just scroll through till you find the right title. There's only 22 in here, so that's not terrible. You could also do a filter on the description field if if you didn't know exactly what you were looking for, but you knew that you wanted you know a date or an item barcode within your display fields, then you could do a filter for that where you click on the little upside down pyramid menu and you choose contains and you look for barcode. Now, of course, remember whenever you're using these filters, they are case sensitive. So if for the most part, our descriptions will have each potential field or filter will be capitalized. But if you don't find what you're looking for, it's always worth coming in and changing that capitalization. Um, let's see, list of circulations by item and date range. Here we go. It's the 8th one down on this list that has been filtered down to only include those with barcodes as a display field. So just like any other time when we're working with a report from the centralized reports templates folder, we do want to clone that so that we own our own copy of it. So I'm going to just do that by right clicking and choosing clone template. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in my training folder over here. Now, while we're in here, let's take a quick look at what we have to work with. So we're going to be getting a report that's going to give our barcode, call number, title author, TCN, circ modifier, shelving location, and then a count. So we're going to get, because this is a list, we're going to get an itemized list of specific items at the barcode level with this kind of identifying details about those items. And then we're going to get where they're shelved and how many times they've circulated. And I'm going to make a few little changes to this because I really want to make sure that I'm getting a list that I can use to kind of go out and shelf read. That's what I want to do with this list. So in order to do that, I want to make sure that my output is grouped by shelving location and circ mod. I'm really going to be looking for things that are near each other. So I don't necessarily want to have a list of a whole bunch of things where the call numbers may be in order, but I've got to go to 3 different shelving locations and they're not in order by those shelving locations. So I want to group those shelving locations together. And the way that we're going to do that is with our sort order. So we're going to go into this report layout tab here. And within here, we have 2 options. We have our display order and our sort order. Display order is the order from left to right that our columns will display. So if we look at the display fields that we have selected here, barcode is at the top, which means that when we get our report output, it's going to be the furthest left column of that output. So this is fine if you would like to have barcode kind of as the first thing you see. A lot of people may prefer to see call number to the left because as they're going through shelf reading, their eye would be very quickly drawn to that, that location signifier. So that may be something that you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and just move call number up. So now call number is going to be my leftmost column. I've got barcode next, which is fine, and then my title and author information. TCN is not something that I'll really need in this report, but I'll go ahead and leave it in there as I could very quickly go and check the MARC record if there's any kind of issues that I come across while weeding. Shelving location, I could also move that so that it is closer to the left so that I can make sure that I'm in the right location as I'm doing this project. So I don't want to have it the first column. I still want that to be call number because that'll make the list as easy to read as possible. But I'll have shelving location next so that I can very quickly make sure that I'm in the right shelving location. So that takes care of the output and how I'm able to read it, the order of the columns. But the other thing that I want to do is also make sure that all shelving locations are together. And for that, I need sort order. So display order simply says left to right, how are these columns going to show up in my output? Sort order will actually determine basically which columns I'm sorting on. So if you think about a spreadsheet and you think about how you might change the organization of a spreadsheet, a lot of times you might go into a column and sort it A to Z or lowest to highest or something like that. Basically, sort order within the reporter allows you to do that before you've ported your output into Excel. So of course we could take this report and then we could take it into Excel and we could sort by shelving location, and that's going to group things by shelving location. But we can actually do that at the template level and save that step where we don't need to go and make any changes in Excel. So we'll do that by choosing which columns we'd like to order first. And since we want to group by shelving location, that's going to be our first sort column. So we're going to come over here to our field sort order panel, and we're going to choose shelving location, which is down here at the bottom, which means that it would be one of the last things to actually get sorted. So it's really not going to have any impact on the order of things in the report at this point. Because we want to make sure that things are grouped by shelving location, we want to move this up to our first sorting column. So see, that has not changed the display order. Shelving location will still be the second column in our output. But it will be the one that is sort of alphabetized first. So, that's sort of the first thing we're looking for. The next thing we want is to make sure that they're in call number order within those shelving locations. So everything's going to be grouped by shelving location, but currently within that shelving location, it's going to be in order by barcode, which is, fairly meaningless in terms of sorting. If I'm taking this out to the shelf with me, I really want to see things in call number order so that I can, kind of go through shelf by shelf. So in order to do that, I'm just going to take call number and I'm going to move it up to the next one. I could go further. I think probably I would make author next so that if there are things with the same call number, they're in order by author's last name. Although I think typically that's just going to come up as the cutter number in the call number. So I wouldn't, it's probably not that necessary. Basically, the rest of these things are not really um, factors in terms of my sorting. What really matters is that we're grouping by shelving location, and then within that group, things are in order by call number. So that's what I've done here. So basically, we've come in and we've made changes not to the content of the report that we're going to get, but to what that content looks like when the report is run. So we've determined that we want to have our call number in our leftmost column so that it is easy to read. And we've determined that we want to make sure that things are coming out in order by first their shelving location and then within that shelving location with the call numbers. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about that concept? Of course, this is something that with any kind of report where you're really going to be moving out into the shelves with something, you definitely want to make sure that it is in a readable order so you're not kind of flipping back and forth through pages and stuff like that. Obviously, you can always manipulate this stuff in Excel after it's been run, but this just kind of saves you that step if you just want to be a little bit more efficient. All right. Let's make a couple more changes to this template before moving forward with it. So if we come into, we've looked at our display fields. I'm comfortable with those. That's, basically what I was looking for. But I want to take a look at the filters. So currently, we are going to get a list of basically items by shelving location, call number, and then it's going to be at the barcode level. So a fully itemized list with that count of circulations for each of those items. But I also want to think about how is Evergreen going to select which items to pull for this list. Currently, we are filtering on checkout date and time and owning library. So I can basically pull a list of all items in any given library that have circulated between a specific date. That's really useful for, larger circulation numbers or being able to put out a report on how things are circulating. But if I really want to kind of take those circulation numbers and go out to the shelf and maybe pull things for displays that I'd like to increase the circulation of, or check to see if there are, if an item is damaged or doesn't look very appealing, that could be maybe resulting in lower circulation numbers, or if I want to do some actual weeding. This report might be a little large for that. So there are a couple of different things I can do to allow me to kind of target what I'm looking at when I am running this report. The first thing I'm going to do is filter it down by shelving location as well. So rather than pulling circulation numbers for every single item that has circulated in my library, instead I'm going to do this by shelving location. So I can choose, some different shelving locations in youth services, or some different shelving locations in adult fiction. And that's going to allow me to be a little bit more targeted with this particular report. So in order to add the shelving location, I'm starting out here in the circulation table. If you've watched some of the previous webinars, then you'll have gotten a little bit of experience with this concept of looking at sort of linked tables. And that's what we're going to have to do here, because of course the circulation table is created every time a patron checks out an item. It creates a row in the circulation table. So that table doesn't really have a whole lot of information about the item itself. It just has kind of a linking identifier to another table where the item's information is stored. And so that's what we're going to need to do here. So we're going to come from this circulation table that has information about the circulation transaction itself to an item table where we can get information about the item that circulated in each of those transactions. So we're going to do that by coming down here to circulating item. And within here, I'm going to take a look through this list of the fields that are available in the item table. And I'm looking for shelving location, and I do find it, but I see that it is a link, which basically means that I'm not going to get I'm not going to get the name of the shelving location. I'm going to get the ID number. Now I'm adding a filter. And so sometimes when you're adding a filter, that doesn't matter as much. When you're adding a display field, you always want to make sure you're getting a name or a label for something like this. But for a filter, you may not need it. And a good way to test that is to go ahead and add the filter. And then over here in the filter pane, if you click supply filter value, you'll get a menu option. If when you click in that menu option, the drop down gives you labels, then you don't need to go any further down. If when you do this, you don't get any sort of drop down, then you need to go another level down usually. So for the most part with the reporter, especially with these sort of common fields, you don't really need to do any further linking when you're adding a filter. So if you do come in here and you find that one of the fields that you want to add to your filters is a link data type, then usually you can add that as a filter and it'll work just fine. Every once in a while, you do need to go down to that sort of next level of the table. If we were adding this as a display field, we would definitely need to find the shelving location table with underneath that item table, which we can do over here under circulating item just by expanding it by clicking on that caret, and then we can see all of the tables that are linked to circulating item. Excuse me, which does include shelving location. In this particular case, it's not necessary though, because it is a filter and our filter values are already labeled for us. I'm going to uncheck this box. I don't want to supply this value at the template level. I want to be able to supply it each time I run a report. So I don't want this to be visible within my template. So I'll uncheck that box. Are there any questions about that, about the concept of the linking tables, or that concept of checking it through this supply filter value option? Like this is a point in which it's very easy to get lost. So if you are feeling a little bit lost, you're probably not alone. So please ask a question if you have one. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and finish getting this filter ready. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to change my operator from equals to in list. So if you've watched some of the earlier webinars, you've seen me talk about operators a little bit, where the concept is how do you want to be able to make this filter function? Equals is the default. And that's where you basically get to choose one exact definition for this filter, and only things that match that definition will be pulled. InList allows you to pull multiple different definitions. So I can choose several different shelving locations at once, and I'd like to be able to do that. So I've changed it from equals to InList. And if you look up here, our owning library is already set to that operator as well, so I can choose multiple branches if I wanted to. One other thing that I want to be cognizant of is that this report right now, as a circulation report, is going to pull data on every circulation of any type. What that means is that it's going to pull renewal data as well as parent circulation data. That may be something that I want, knowing that people renew something often, may be just as valuable to me as simply knowing that people have checked it out. But if I wanted to remove those renewal numbers from my circulation count, then I'll need to do that by adding a filter. And basically what I want to do is filter out any circulation that is flagged as a renewal. So it's fairly easy to do, but there are multiple steps, and I'll show you why. So to do that, goodness, I'm going to come up here to my circulation table. So back up to the top. And within the circulation table, my fields include a number of different renewal options. So we've got auto renewal. So I'm going to go ahead and add that as a filter. We also have desk renewal. So auto renewal, of course, is when an item, if your library uses auto renewal in your circulation policies, when an item gets to its due date, if there is nothing blocking its renewal on the patron's end, and there are no patrons with a hold on the item, it renews automatically with no action taken by anyone. A desk renewal is when a patron asks a staff member to renew the item for them manually. So if your library does not use auto renewal, or if you have just a patron who is anxious to make sure that they're able to renew, they may ask library staff to conduct the renewal for them. So that would be considered a desk renewal. We also have something called a phone renewal. I don't know that that's active. I always include it just in case, but I think if a patron were to call the library and ask for a renewal, that would actually be recorded as a desk renewal because it's being done manually by a staff member at the desk. I don't think that gets counted as a phone renewal, but I always include this just in case. And then, of course, we have, I've skipped it, the OPAC renewal. So this is when a patron renews their item themselves in the OPAC. So I'm going to include all four of those renewal options so that I can make sure that I'm covering all of the potential renewal situations. For each of them, I need to come into my filter pane, and this is where I'll supply a filter value again. So this is what we call hard coding. Basically, we are saying what the filter definition will be at the template level. We will not be able to make any changes to these hard-coded filters once we're running a report. Every time we run this report, these filters will be in place. So unlike the shelving location or the owning library, which we will get to set each time we run the report, this one will be set automatically and we won't be able to change it. With things like a renewal, or if you're looking to remove deleted items from your report, stuff like that, where it's always going to be the same, hard coding is, just makes sense. For most things, though, I don't recommend hard coding just because you never know how you may use a report in the future, and you don't want to be in a situation where you have to go back and remake the template in order to use it in just a slightly different way. So for our auto renewal, I'm going to click supply filter value, and I'm going to set it to false, which means that none of the circulations that will be included in my count will be the result of an auto renewal. I'll do the same thing for a desk reviewer or desk renewal. I will click supply filter value and I will choose false. And then same thing for a phone renewal. And then same thing for an OPAC renewal. So this way I am ensuring that all of the circulations that are included in the count that I get in my report were the parent circulation. They were the initial circulation transaction. They weren't renewals on top of that. So we have made some changes to this template. We have changed, of course, our report layout. We've changed both the display order and the sort order to ensure that all of our items are grouped by shelving location and in order by call number within those groups. We have not done anything to the display fields. We've left them exactly as we found them. But we have added some filters. We have added a filter for shelving location that will allow us to choose multiple specific shelving locations for our report. And we've also added filters that allow us to remove renewals from our circulation count. I am ready to save this template, but before I do, are there any questions about any of the changes I've made or any of my reasoning behind any of those changes? Great. Well, feel free to put something in the chat even as we move forward. I'm always happy to kind of come back and revisit anything. So in order to save this template, I've already chosen where I'm going to save it. I am going to change the name instead of having it as clone. I'm going to add circulations by item and date range and shelving location because I have added that extra filter. So now it is circulations by item, date range, and shelving location. And I'll go ahead and save this. So this is my clone template. This is a fairly straightforward circulation report where we're just going to be looking at circulation numbers per item within a specific set of shelving locations and a specific date range. To run that, we're just going to come into the folder where I've saved the cloned template, which is the training folder, and this is shared. So at the end of this webinar, you can come into this training folder. So you'll just find it under my username, which is admin_trn. I'll put that in the chat. And then under templates and training. So you'll be able to find both this cloned template that we've done as well as the one that we're going to do from scratch in a moment once the webinar is over. So we're going to go into this training folder and I'm just going to sort this by date created. I'm going to click it twice and that'll bring up my most recent template in this folder first. So that's at the top of the list. And to run it, I'm just going to double click on it. So the first thing I need to do to run this report is set the date range for the circulations that I want to see. Now I could set this to be relative, where I could say that I want everything from 30 days ago to 0 days ago. I can also set it by a specific date. If you're going to be doing this as a recurring report, then you do need to change it to a relative time value. I am not going to do that though. I'm just going to look so far in 2026 what our circulation numbers are. So I'll choose January 1st through today. And then I'll just need to choose which libraries I'd like to look at the output for. So you can choose multiple branches because we do have that in list operator. I'm just going to go ahead and choose the branch where I am currently logged in. You don't have to have your workstation match the branch you choose here though, just so you know. All right, so I've chosen my branch and now I need to choose my shelving location. For this, I'm going to take a look at adult fiction as well as, let's do adult large print fiction. So I've chosen 2 shelving locations. You can choose as many as you'd like to. And now the remainder of our filters here are all of those renewal filters. And of course, you can see I'm not able to make any change to the filter value because they are hard coded. They're set at the template level. I can't make any changes now, but I can at least see that they're in here so I know that they're going to be functional. Once I've done that, I click next, and now I just have to determine how this report will run. So I'm going to choose where I save my output. I'm going to choose what that output looks like. In this case, I'll do an HTML, and let's change this to an Excel. If I wanted it to recur, then I could set that up here. I'm not going to do that right now. And then I would put in the email addresses of anybody that I'd like to receive this report. Once I've done that, I click Save and Schedule. So let's take a look at our output folder and just see if that's running as expected. And it is. We'll give it a few moments. While that runs, are there any questions about that process, about any of the choices that I made, or you know, how you could maybe make different changes to it if you were looking for something a little bit different? Of course, while you're waiting for something to run, you can always refresh your grids up here, and that's going to move it from pending to complete if it has completed. This might take a little while. It's not the biggest report ever or the most complex, but there's quite a lot in it. Let's see, Erica asked if you want to weed through adult fiction, you choose January 2022 when you join Cardinal to present day. If you want to see all circulation all the way back, yeah, that's basically what you would do. There are circulation data from before your migration, but I'm not sure how reliable that is. So yeah, I would choose from when you migrated. So January 2022 up to present. So the same way that we set those date ranges when we were doing it, your start date would be a few years ago, and it'll take a little longer to run, but it shouldn't cause any problems. All right, so it looks like this has finished running. Let's take a quick look at it so you just kind of see what some of those things that we talked about actually mean in practice. So if I click HTML, that's going to open the output up. And so you'll see everything is grouped. We've got adult fiction. And if I scroll way, way down, we get adult large fiction. So adult fiction is all together, adult large fiction is all together. Within each of them, they are sorted by their call numbers, which they probably would have been anyway, because in this particular library, the call number starts with either the F or the LP. So that probably would have taken care of the sorting in this particular report for this particular library, but a different set of shelving locations might not have given me quite the same automatic grouping. So it's good that I have this sorting that I did. Even though in this particular case, of course, that LP and that F mean that alphabetically speaking, fiction would be on top anyway. But if we had a different scenario, you would see that the call numbers are alphabetical within the shelving location, regardless of whether or not they're alphabetical outside that shelving location. So this one starts with an F, so obviously they're all going to come before the ones that start with LP. But if we had, say, trying to think of a good example, and I don't have one, but if we had a different sort of scenario where the shelving location and the call number where the call number was not reflective of the shelving location, then we would still get the grouping that we're seeing right now. Otherwise, then over here, we see our count. This was a very short amount of time, it was 2.5 months. So we're not going to expect to see very large circulation numbers here. But what I could do is I could kind of come through and find anything that has a very large circulation number, because that may be something that I want to consider buying extra copies of. I don't know that we're going to see anything that has more than 2, just given the time frame. But that is the basic process of running fairly straightforward circulation report. So that gives us that sort of list concept, the itemized output where we see a specific barcoded item with a specific title and the circulation for that exact item only. So we do have some things. Let's see if we've got, I can find one relatively quickly. Uh, Yeah, so The Handmaid's Tale, we've got 2 copies of that. We have our circulation numbers separate for it because it's at the barcode level. So we do have The Handmaid's Tale has circulated twice so far in 2026. It's just been across the course of 2 different copies. Let's see. Erica asked, what would I need to change filter wise if I were looking for items that had not been checked out since a certain date for weeding? Um, So with this particular report, it's not actually a filter that is doing that. It's the fact that we have, oh no, the filter that is doing that is that we have a circulation date. So that is basically making it so that only items that have circulated are going to be showing up. For your report that you're talking about, since you are looking at since you migrated, um, probably the easiest thing to do is to just remove that date filter altogether, since you're basically looking for the full history. And that will allow anything with a 0 circulation to come through, I think. You also can come down here to the shared, the centralized reports templates and look underneath, I think it'd be on list. Actually, no, I think you'd want to look under inventory and weeding templates. I believe there is one in here that specifically looks for items with no circulations. Um, yeah, items never circulated in Evergreen. So this might be the one that you'd want to use for that type of report. Um, and you could do this kind of in conjunction with the other one where you're kind of looking at you use the other report for items with very low circulation numbers, but you maybe first run a report for anything that's never circulated. So I'll go ahead and just put the title of this in the chat so that you're able to find it again. You're welcome. If you do try to run that and you run into anything weird, or if you've got questions, feel free to reach out. It is a little bit of an older template, should still be functional, but sometimes sometimes the older ones throw some wrenches. So if you do run into anything weird, let me know and I'm happy to kind of dig into it with you. All right, so that was our process of taking an existing template and tweaking it a bit to meet specific needs and running it. In doing that, we talked a little bit about some of the concepts related to a circulation report, as well as things like display and sort order and shelving locations and things like that. We are going to move on now to making our own report from scratch. And this is kind of what I call a paint by number report, in that it is very straightforward. I will walk you through the process of this is the exact field we're going to add, and this is the exact filter we're going to add. And you should be able to recreate it yourself. If you're able to follow along with me live, I definitely recommend doing that, because if something doesn't make sense to you while you're doing it, we can talk about it right away. If you're watching this on the recording, um, pause the recording as you need to recreate what I'm doing and seeing if you're getting the same thing. Like I said, I will make this one available in my training folder, so you'll be able to get to it so you can compare yours to the original. I would definitely recommend, if your hope is to practice making the template yourself, then do that rather than cloning mine, because that'll give you the practice. But if you are just trying to get the exact report that I'm making, you're welcome to clone it and just take it and use it as your own. Um, If you do, as you're working through this, have any questions, either live or later on with the recording, please feel free. Live, go ahead and put those questions in chat. If you're working through the recording, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you run across as you go through it. So let's go ahead and make our own template. We're going to do that by going to the template folder where we want to save the template. So I'm going to go here to this training folder, and I'm going to click the new template button up here at the top. The first thing I'm going to do is give my template a name. So what I'm planning to do here is to create a very straightforward report where I am counting the number of circulations in a specific library. So very, um, very bare bones. So I'm just going to put count circulations by library branch. You're welcome to use whatever naming convention you like. I often, when I'm practicing running a report, creating something from scratch, I'll give it sort of a version number as well. So if you think that you may be going through a few iterations of this, I definitely recommend doing that. We've already selected where we will be saving this template. So the template folders are not expanded right now. I can expand them, and I could choose a different folder at this point. I'm happy with where I'm planning to save it here in training though, so I'll stick with that. Now I can go ahead and put in my template description, but I normally will do that at the end. Once I've added everything, I'll come and write that in the description. So the first thing that I need to do is figure out my core source. And like I said, I'm not going to take people on too much of a journey to think about core sources and how the database is set up. But what I will say is that it's really important when you're thinking about your core source is to start by thinking about what are you trying to find with this report? What is your goal with the report? If you kind of come in knowing what you want out of the report, that makes it easier to choose your core source. So if I come in here and I'm not really sure what I'm doing and I'm just kind of scrolling through, I think it gets overwhelming very quickly. But if I come in knowing this is a circulation report and the main thing I want is a count of circulations, then I know that circulation is almost certainly where I want to start. There are other ways that you can get circulation numbers. You can start from the item table and build out from there. But for something like this, where the main point is the circulation numbers, starting at the circulation table is going to be my easiest option. So I'm going to choose circulation. And so I'll see here on the left, I'll see all of the different tables that are directly linked to the circulation table. So anything within the database that is stored in the circulation table that links out to a different table in the database will show up underneath it. So you can see circulating item, you can see checkout renewal library. So if I open up either of these tables, I'm going to get all of the details that are saved about either the item that checked out or where it was checked out, the patron who checked it out. So that can be really useful. But I'm starting here at the top under circulation. And so that means that here in this middle pane, I'm seeing every single data point that is available within the circulation table. So if I kind of scroll through this, I see a lot of the stuff that I might want. I know I'm probably going to want to filter on a checkout date or a checkout library. Since I am looking at circulation numbers by branch, I want to make sure that this is here, and it is, as well as the checkout date, so I can set a date range filter. Now, as I'm looking through this, I find that there is not a circulation count. And the reason for that is that that is actually a field we have to create. So let's start by creating our other fields, and then we'll come into how we do that circulation count field. So for my report, I'm basically just looking for a library and how many things circulated at it. So I really don't have that many fields I need. What I want for my library is the checkout renewal library. Now I can also do some other things. There are other types of libraries that are stored in here for a circulation report. The most straightforward one is going to be the checkout library, which means that this is going to include resource sharing items. This is not going to be limited to just items that my library owns. Um, there are ways to limit to that, and we'll talk about those when we get to filters. But when I'm just choosing this display field here in the circulation table, it is only for where something was checked out, regardless of who owns it. Now I can add this, but I will tell you that if I do, my report, my output is not going to make a lot of sense because it's going to give me the org unit ID. And I know that because the parenthetical thing here is org unit, which means that I'm just going to get the ID for the branch, which is not the same as the name of the branch. And that could be really confusing. So anytime I see this org unit designator, it tells me that I need to go and find the actual table that is named, in this case, checkout renewal library. Just like we saw with the link and the shelving locations before, org unit is that same sort of idea. If you see an org unit as the designator on a display field, then you need to go in and find the actual table with this name in order to get the name of the library. So I'm going to look for checkout renewal library. It's right here, and click on that. And when I do, I'm just going to look for the field that's called name. So I'll check on that. And this is really, we want to look for that designator that says text. That's generally speaking, when you're looking for any sort of like label like this, you're looking for a text data type. Now I'm going to come over here to my display field pane, and I'm just going to change the name of this from name to branch. And that way, when I see my output, it's labeled as branch. It makes a little more sense to me. All right, so I have my first of two display fields. My second one is my count. Before we do that, are there any questions about what I did there to get that library name? All right, so let's get our circulation count. I'm going to go back here to my circulation table. So just click on the word circulation in the leftmost pane. And I am going to go to the circ ID. So every time an item is checked out in Evergreen, that transaction is given an ID number. Evergreen will automatically assign a unique ID number to that transaction. That's called the circ ID. The way that I can get a count of the number of circulations that happened is by choosing this circ ID and counting them. So I just want to take this display field and go into the transform and choose count. And what the reporter will do is it will basically internally generate a list of every circ ID that matches the filters I set up next. And then it will, in the output, it will give you a count of how many circ IDs were generated. So you don't have to do that counting. The database or Evergreen will do it for you, but this allows you to sort of get that very distinct count, which is what we're looking for. So at this point, we have our two display fields. Which library something happened at and how many times. The next thing we want to do is filter it so that we can actually have some control over what is counted within this count. So we're going to go into our filters tab. And we're going to start by saying, well, we want to filter on the library where the circulations happened, right? That's our number one goal here. So we're going to choose checkout renewal library. Since this is a filter, we don't need to go into the table to get the name. We can just check the box here from the circulation table. And like we did with shelving locations, you can check that that'll work by clicking supply filter value and clicking in the box here to see whether or not you get a drop down menu. And we do, so we can see that this is going to work as intended. So I'll uncheck that. The other thing we're going to do here is change our operator to an in list. We talked about this with the last report, where what we're looking for here is the ability to choose multiple branches. We may only choose one at any given time, but we may choose multiples, and this gives us that option. All right, so our first filter is checkout renewal library, where the circulation that we're counting happened. Now, I mentioned earlier that there are a lot of different ways that libraries kind of play into the circulation of an item. So obviously you have the physical location where the circulation happened. Some other library data points that you'll have within the context of the circulation are who owns the item, where was that item shelved, and then also the patrons library. So you can filter on any of those. You can filter on any combination of them as well. So if we wanted to have just a basic, how many things checked out at a library during a time period, this is all we need is the checkout library. And then that's what we'll get is how many items circulated at this library. If we want this to be how many items owned by this library circulated at this library, we have to add um, a second ORC unit filter. That one's a little bit more complicated. Basically, we have to go from circulation down to the item itself. So circulating item will be our next table. Then within the circulating item table, we need to go to the call number table because items are actually owned at the call number level. And then from call number, we can choose owning library. So if you wanted to have that secondary filter on who owns the items being circulated, that's how you would do that, from circulation to circulating item to call number volume. So I'll go ahead and choose owning library from that call number table. And I'll do the same thing here where my operator becomes in list. And so now I'm basically filtering to ensure that everything within my output was checked out at a specific library and owned by a specific library. And when I set those filters, I can set them however I'd like. So I can set them so that these are the same library, or I can set them to be different libraries. Does that make sense? Does anybody have questions about that? I feel like that's one of those areas that does get confusing. So if you have a question, please feel free to ask. All right, so we have two filters, where the item was checked out and who owns that item. The other thing that I want is a date range. So I'm going to come back up here to circulation and I'm going to put in checkout date and time. So if I look down here, what I see is that I've got a checkout date and time and an operator of equals, which means I'd have to put in a very specific date in order for this to pull data. And I don't want to do that. Instead, I want a date range like we saw with our last report. So the way that I do that is I just change my operator from equals to between. And this will allow me to set a date range, a start date and an end date. A couple of other options in here might be an on or after or on or before. So if I just want to see circulation numbers before a specific date, I can choose this, or since a specific date, I can choose this. I'm going to go ahead and choose between though. That's, you can make a between date pretty open-ended by simply letting the last date be the day that you're running the report. So you have, some flexibility with this particular one. So I usually use between in any kind of situation like this. Now there's one more thing that I want to do here, and it's the same thing we did in our last template, and that's to remove renewals. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to add auto renewal, desk renewal, OPAC renewal, and phone renewal. Then I'm going to go through to each one of them, and I'm going to click supply filter value and set the value to false. So this allows me to reduce my circulation numbers down to just the principal circulation and not any renewals that came after it. But other than that, I don't have any other filters that I want to add. So this is a fairly simple report. I have branches where a circulation happened, my checkout renewal library, and I have a count of the unique circulations that happened at that branch. I am choosing the branch where those circulations happened. I'm also choosing to only count items owned by specific branches, and I'll choose that branch when I run the report. I am choosing to only show circulations between dates that I'll select when I run the report, and I'm removing all renewals from the count. So the count will only be parent circulations. It will not include renewals in the final count. Any questions about any of this setup? If anybody is following along and needs an extra minute, I'll just pause here so that everybody can make sure that they've got everything set. So your display fields, if you look at the kind of path listed underneath them, your first one should be circulation, checkout renewal library name, and your second one should just be circulation circ ID, but you do want to make sure you've transformed that to account. Your filters, you're going to have circulation, checkout renewal library with an operator of in list. Then you're going to have, and this is the tricky one, circulation to circulating item to call number volume to owning library. So you've got quite a path that you'll follow here. But again, your operator will be in list. Checkout date and time is just circulation, checkout date and time with an operator of between. And then for all of your renewals, you'll just have circulation and then the specific type of renewal it is with a supplied filter value of false for each of them. All right, well, let's go ahead and save this. And then I'm going to go into my training folder. Again, well, actually, I don't even need to sort it because it's the top one. So I'm just going to double click here on my template that I've created and we'll run it. We'll choose our checkout renewal library. Again, I'm just going to choose pack since that's where I'm logged in, and our owning library, and I'll choose pack for that as well. Now you could, if you wanted to, choose a different library here. So if I wanted to see everything that checked out at pack but is owned at Black Mountain, I can do that simply by choosing Black Mountain here and pack at the circulation renewal library. So it's a fairly flexible report. There's a lot you can do with it. For my checkout date, I'm going to say, let's look at everything since January 1st through to today. And then all of my renewal filters are already set to false. I'm going to save it. I'm going to put it to an HTML and an Excel output. And this will not be a recurring report. So I'll just save and schedule it to run. And I can find it here in my output folder where it's currently pending. And it may take a moment. Generally, something like this is going to run fairly quickly, even though it's looking at a large number of circulations. It doesn't have to dig through too much to find those numbers, so it's usually pretty quick. Yep, and there we go. It's already done. So I'll click on HTML, and we find that since January 1st, Pack Memorial Library has circulated just under 15,000 items. So that's across all shelving locations, across all call numbers, but it is only items that Pack Memorial Library owns. So, it's a slice of their circulation numbers. So hopefully, if you were following along, you are getting your output as well. And obviously, it may not look the same because if you did it for your own library, you're going to get a different set of numbers, but hopefully it is working for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. As of right now, are there any questions either about the reports that we've done today or just reports in general? We are right at 11 o'clock, and I do believe I scheduled this to be a 2-hour webinar just because reports sometimes do run over. So we've got plenty of time if anybody has any questions or would like to see anything in more detail. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording at least, but I will stay on for questions.